Hey, everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I got to speak to Chad Price. Chad Price is an amazing leader, an amazing entrepreneur. He's the founder of Kettlebells Kings. Now, you'll hear me say kettleballs at the beginning, and I couldn't get that out of there. So it's Kettlebells Kings. And Life Grows Green. He also is the author of the book Preparing for Battle, which just dropped this week. So you got to go out and get it. Chad talked with me about having that winning mindset, about building a strong team. He talked about how you could take the love of sports and some of the attributes that go into being a great athlete into the business world. He also talked about what are the big challenges that you as middle managers and leaders out there are facing today. You don't want to miss a second. Let's get at it.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. I have a phenomenal leader today, a phenomenal entrepreneur today who is going to drop some great advice on you on how do you maneuver through business today? How do you take some things you might be good at outside of business like sports and take those and use those skills inside of business to be crazy successful? I want to get right to him and find out more about his backstory. The founder of Kettlebell Kings and Life Grows Green. And I just found out that his book is available for pre-order today. Well, it was on pre-order. It's available today. Preparing for Battle. He's also an author. Chad Price has joined us today. Hey, Chad, great to have you on.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to meet you also, sir. So I got to tell you, man, I love everything about your background, and I'm so anxious to hear your backstory and what were some things and lessons you learned along the way to build to where you are now and to want to help so many others like you're doing right now. So tell us your backstory.
Sure. I'm from a small town in Texas, Bay City, Texas, about 20 minutes from the Gulf. So grew up there, ended up playing sports kind of my entire childhood, ended up with a scholarship to Rice University, where I played football there. After graduating there, I kind of got into, I guess, traditional corporate America, trying to find out, which career path or which job I liked the most. After doing that for about 5 to 7 years, I decided, if it's ever going to be a time I'm going to start entrepreneurship, it's going to be now. And I kind of jumped in with both feet at that point, and I started Kettlebell Kings with two friends of mine from college, and then I also started a nail salon at the same time. And since then, it's just been entrepreneurship for me kind of full time, and Kettlebell Kings kind of took off, and it went from kind of a local brand to now kind of globally distributed brand around the world.
Wow. That is fantastic. And what were some things that prompted you to make that decision to go into entrepreneurship? You said, you figured the time was right. What was going on when you got into corporate America that prompted you to say, hey, I'm done. Let me go and do this for myself?
I mean, I think it's, a similar journey for anybody that's an entrepreneur. You have to kind of pay your bills and figure out what you're going to do, especially after you graduate from college. I don't know many people that feel extremely confident in just going out and starting a business directly after college, but that is a path as well. My approach was more to try to get some real world experience, try to get underneath some real world leaders and participate on some teams that I thought I could be proud of or aspire to, create on my own. And that kind of set me up for an understanding of what it took to run your own business. And so after having several different jobs, and my last job was actually a pretty good job in oil and gas, where it was, your traditional corporate America job. And I really realized that, I kind of have a sense for what an employee relationship would be, or what my career path would look like if I stayed down that path. Mm-hmm. And, I could always kind of come back if entrepreneurship didn't work, and it was just worth taking that risk for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Um, so starting Kettlebell Kings, what were some early lessons that you learned then? What are a couple of things that if you had to do over that you would do a little bit differently?
It would be quite a few, and I think that's one of the good things about kind of jumping into entrepreneurship is you don't know what you don't know when you start, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. So a lot of times you can get places kind of naively, just because of your own ignorance.
Yeah.
But one of the things I would say that missing out on is not really structuring the company in a way that you can compensate yourself. So
Hmm.
I have three partners. We for the first 5 years of the company, nobody took a single dollar from home from the company. Everyone was just build, build, build. If the decision came between whether or not we wanted to pay ourselves or buy more inventory, the choice was easy. So there was never really a time, because we didn't plan well, to really kind of compensate ourselves for our success during that time period. We eventually got it under control, and we had direct conversations about how to do that at that point in time. But I think doing that earlier would have probably prevented some of the maybe disputes or pressure that may have been put on the entire decision making process.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good one. Wow. Um, let's dive in a little bit now to some of the things that I love that you talk about. Um, you talk about having a winning mindset and how that can really, really get you a long way in business. What's a winning mindset look and feel like these days? And how did you develop that?
Well, I mean, I think the way I've been describing it lately is, I think when you play sports, you get the opportunity to develop that mindset because sports simulate so many different kind of mini battles. You have battles in your workouts, you have battles at practice, you have, the battle to win a starting position. And then you actually have games and playoffs and championships. So, I think it just sets the stage for kind of giving you a lifelike experience of these situations in which you don't win them all. But having a winning mindset is that you are there to constantly improve. You're there to be a better warrior than you were the day before, and
Mm.
you're going to keep doing that forever. And that's an endless journey. That's not something that you start and stop or pick up and put down. That continues during the summertime, preparing for the next season, if you will. And I think business really gives you that opportunity to look at that and kind of live your life through that passion and the things that you choose to do and put yourself towards when it comes to business.
Yeah, it really does, man. That makes so much sense to me. And I often wonder, there are I'm a huge sports fan, so there are just certain players that seem to win all the time. No matter what team they go on, they might get traded to another team, and that team all of a sudden wins. And what you said really breaks that down. And I really hadn't thought as much until now of how you just can apply that right to business. I think that's awesome. Um, you just mentioned a bit ago about building a team, and I know that's one of the things that you talk about a lot. So, for leaders out there today, what's a couple of real practical steps, Chad, that leaders can do to build that strong winning team?
I mean, I think it's definitely one of those things that's easier said than done for sure.
Yes.
That's why people get paid the big bucks who can do it successfully.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's a lot of understanding what successful teams do. So, one of the things I tell people is, study other successful teams. So study teams that you aspire to be like, even if it's not a direct competitor of yours, even if it's in a different industry. I think professional sports organizations give you an example to study those types of things. But it's more of the mindset needed and more of the personalities needed than I think it is the competency of people. I think one of the things that we miss a lot is are really people bought into the idea that you're trying to pitch or the concept that you're trying to get into a company. And a lot of times, just like a team, I think if you have someone there that's not bought into that idea, you kind of either have to get them to buy in or you have to get someone to replace them.
Mhm.
And that comes very easy for me because, I've seen players, for example, who are much more talented than even I was, maybe at the time. But if your mindset is not right, you're off the team. And
Mm.
it's not a debate. It's a non-negotiable. It's something that just kind of comes naturally for me.
Yeah, I love that. It makes so much sense. Chad, give us a team or two that in sports that you've emulated, and a team or two maybe in business that you've emulated.
I mean, in sports, I try to stay because I've been on so many successful teams. I try to stay away from idolizing, let's say, one organization. I would say I'm a big LeBron James fan, even though I have my
Yeah.
criticism of him in his recent years.
Oh.
But I think I like the idea of each individual kind of season or each individual um, opportunity to win a championship. So, if it's in college, it's doing something that your college has never done before. So, I like teams that not necessarily maybe won the national championship, but have just had a winning season that they haven't had in a long time, and what made that happen. I talk about in my book, for example, my high school coach. I remember when I was in high school that we had a coach previous to him. And when he came, there was a shift in the culture. It wasn't just an idea of, oh, we're good in football. It was an idea that we're going to be great at whatever we do. Each one of us has an opportunity to be something better than what we currently are. And that didn't exist before he got there. So that's really what I study. And I think those are the examples that I look for.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to business, I try to focus on different companies that I think build positive brands. So, one of the ones I would compare Kettlebell Kings to is like a Yeti, or even Apple has done a good job of having its own fan base. So, you have a brand that's also associated with some type of culture, some type of kind of street level understanding that this represents something more than just the product that you're holding. And that's what I try to kind of influence into any of the products that I'm dealing with. I try to cross that over and really create a community behind it more than just see it as a product.
I love that. I love that. And one day I've got to talk to you about some of your criticisms of LeBron James. We'll do that on another show or something. Thought that was interesting, but I probably know what you're talking about. You mentioned brand. I want to go there for a second, Chad. How important is that for leaders today to build their own brand, and how do they do that? Because your brand is very, very distinct. I think, we could read a little bit about you, hear you on some other podcasts, stuff, and I immediately kind of formulate, man, this guy's a winner. You know what I mean? And that kind of formulates my brand, or your brand to me. Um, how do leaders get there these days, or is that even really, really important these days?
I think it's more important than most people think. I think there are industries in which brand plays less of a role, but I think the more that we see, kind of the monopolization of everything, everything becoming kind of a digital product at this point, brands are going to start sticking out a lot more, and people want to be associated with something. One of the ways I would tell our teams is that people only have enough room in their head for so many companies, and to be one of those companies that people actually remember and want to be associated with, wear the gear and the the tennis shoes, whatever that might be, whatever lifestyle options you have for them as well. Those are the brands that have kind of that generational appeal, and that's what I want to create. I want to create something that lives long past me, and something that people will see and build around the concept that I've created, more than just celebrating the ego of my current business.
Yeah, man, that is so spot on. And you're right. You said that we only have enough space in our head for but so many brands and companies. You're right. I've gotten very simple. In the summer, I only buy polo shirts,
Yeah,
it's like, because I get confused, as I
yeah,
start to look at others. And that is so spot on. And I love that you're leaving a legacy. Not trying, you are going to be leaving a legacy. This is awesome. I want to ask you a two-part question on challenges. Um, what would be some general challenges today? And then I'd love for you to go down the road of, because you've been pretty outspoken about challenges that minority business owners have. Talk a little bit about both. What are just some general challenges out there in business and for leaders today that you see? And then what were some challenges that you see day in and day out as a minority business owner?
I mean, I think when you sign up, for to be a business owner, or, an ownership role, you kind of accept that you're going to have to deal with the most difficult challenges that come to your business. Uh, no easy things get put on your desk when you're the owner. All the things that people couldn't solve ahead of you usually is what you have to deal with. So I look at challenges as kind of, part of my practice, part of my workout routine. I try to look at it as something that I know I'm going to have to deal with problem after problem. If I want to be more successful, that's going to require me to deal with more problems. That being said, I think when you're from South Texas and you've grown up in the culture that is, let's say, Texas Republicans, Texas, a small town, you kind of get used to maybe the different cultures and the different segments of America more easily. For me, it's been something that I think I've dealt with since a child, is that everyone doesn't see, let's say, young Black African American men as successful or intelligent. You can name the derogatory word that's associated with it.
Mhm.
But even when I was at Rice University, there were times where I was, let's say, discriminated against just because of the way I looked. So police would be called on me, or I would be accused of breaking into cars, or different things like that. Where
Yeah.
it's something that you naturally understand that these things exist. And I think, to me, that's just part of the game. I know there are people out there who don't like to see me in certain situations, or would prefer not to see people of my skin tone or my demeanor in certain situations. And I just look at it as a challenge, and I'm coming either way. So it's it's your choice to deal with it. And
Love
I
that.
kind of look at it and smile, like, hey, if you're having a bad time because you can't associate around all different cultures, I don't think you deserve to be here. And I think it's my job to displace people like that, and to move them on to, let's say, the history books.
Yeah. I love that. Does that fuel you more, Chad?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's I'm competitive in spirit, and I look at it. I've always loved sports because I feel like it brings culture. It breaks down those cultural barriers.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I did not like all my teammates. I'm sure some of my teammates have associations or networks or family members who would not necessarily get along with me in the same light. But very similar to the military, or anything where you really commit yourself to a bigger thing than yourself. I think it really opens your eyes to, we're all the same, and we're all trying to live the best life we can. We all want what's best for us and our families and our personal well-being. So um, I envision a world in which everyone gets to kind of have that eye-opening experience, even if they've been shielded from it. But if they're not trying to kind of move toward that point of progress, I don't think it's my job to wait around or even kind of associate with those types of networks. It's my job to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I want to go back to sports and business for a second. I think in my lifetime, Magic Johnson has been probably the most successful athlete that I've seen, that has become such a successful entrepreneur. You sometimes just read about all the things that he does and you forget, man, he was point guard for the Lakers for all those years, won 5 championships. Um, but he was very specific on some things that he talked about, of skills that he acquired over the years on the court that he took into business. What's one or two of those when you were on the football field that you apply every single day, that you knew that, hey, I learned this on the field and I'm applying it to business every day?
I mean, I think probably the biggest one, one I mess with people all the time, is I had a strength and conditioning coach that was kind of a super hard guy, and he would say, you either getting weaker or you're getting stronger. And I think for business, I don't think that's realistic necessarily for a person for their entire life. I don't know if
Yes.
anyone can live up to that.
Yeah.
But I think for a business, that is a good way to look at it. I think as a business, that there are always things that you could be doing to improve your company. And I think I take those types of concepts. As a team, you can always be getting better. So everyone can't get better every day necessarily, but everyone can be working towards their goal. And as a whole, the whole team can get better on a regular basis. And so that's kind of how I try to run my businesses. This is a living, breathing organism that has to evolve and adapt and get better over time. And the idea of remaining stagnant, or we're good enough where we are, is just not a concept that you can kind of let sit, or let associate with any type of leadership in the organization. So I think that's probably the number one.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Spot on. And I loved your conditioning coach when he was saying that. Um, a couple, this has been amazing, by the way. A couple of more questions for you though. You talk about using digital tools, that's really helped with your success. I'm a middle manager, let's say, or a store manager at a retail store or at a restaurant. What are some practical ways I can use some digital tools to really drive the business in my store?
I mean, I think it depends on everyone's kind of personal journey and where they are with the digital tools. But I think you're seeing now, especially with tools like AI and the ability of different types of AI to help people in business. It's only going to get more efficient to be a user of these tools versus try to combat them. And in my eyes, I think it's always been that way. So every company that I've ever associated with, I try to automate as many processes as I can through these types of tools. And I try to learn and stay on the forefront for the tools that will fit my particular skill set, my particular industry, whatever that may be. So simple things is just digitizing things. Using spreadsheets and versus just using a open Word document or a notepad and things like that. Trying to format information in a way that a computer can read it,
Mhm.
especially now that we have AI. AI can read your notes. You can transcribe calls. You can do things to take information and analyze it in a way that you never before could. And so I think the people who understand how to do that the fastest will be the most efficient and make the best decisions in probably any kind of management or leadership position.
Yeah, that is great advice. And when you start to think about time saving as well, I hear that from a lot of leaders out there. I just don't have the time to develop or do this, but this that can save a lot of time. Um, what are, in your opinion, Chad, what are one or two must-have skills that leaders need here in 2023 and beyond?
I think that would be one of them. I think understanding how to utilize digital tools for to kind of amplify your own experiences, your own gifts, if you will. So you may be someone who's better at certain things than others, but there's always going to be a way that you can use some type of digital tool to amplify your own success. And figuring that out early on will not only will save you time, but it'll make you much more efficient. And I think you'll see a much faster turnaround ROI on your efforts. And then just general perseverance. I think like we talked about earlier, like an athlete, there will be games that you lose. There will be times in which you will know something's right and it won't be right. And in those times, turning around, accepting defeat, having the self awareness to go back to practice the next day, to pick up the weights the next day, to go right back at what you were going after before without letting that demoralize you or your team is a skill that I think everyone should develop, and just having that tough skin to move forward.
Yeah, so digital tools and perseverance, and I love both of those. I think that especially with the changing workplace today, you got to have that perseverance. You really, really do. I think that's great. Chad, this has been amazing. I want to wind down, but I want to make sure that the audience knows how to contact you. But first, tell it this is an exciting day for you. Your
Yeah.
book is out. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure. I mean, the book is going to basically give you a recap of kind of my story and where I came from, why I think the way I think about a lot of things. It talks about my childhood and growing up playing sports in a small town. I won the state championship when I was 16. So a lot of that has a lot of influence on the way I think about things and the way I think about successful organizations. But then it's going to get into the building blocks of business. So section 2 of the book is going to be basically trying to break business down to 10 building blocks, giving you a conceptual idea of the things you should think about when you're trying to start a business. And then part 3 is going to give you a workbook where you can kind of map out your ideas and write down all kind of some of the things that you may be thinking, or the business models in which you want to try to apply. So finding your leadership style and really trying to think about what a team looks like underneath you, or what type of resources you need to gather to achieve whatever goals you might have.
Yeah, that is awesome. I will go and order, and we can get it anywhere. Is it on Amazon, or do we have to go to the
Yeah,
site?
it's on Amazon. So yeah, you can find it on Amazon. My website should lead you to it as well, chadprice.com.
Okay.
Yeah, preparing for battle. You should see it in the entrepreneur section, business development, marketing. It's under all those sections.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And getting in contact with you to work with you and find out more about you, chadprice.com is the best place to send folks.
ChadPrice.com. I'm also on our social channels. So,
Okay.
LinkedIn, Chad Price, other social channels, Real Chad Price. And you can find me pretty much anywhere you're socially on.
Okay. All right. Chad, this has been awesome. I can't tell you how grateful I am for the time you gave. God bless everything you're doing. It's great work. You're such an interesting leader. I love your leadership style from what I've read. I can't wait to get the book and learn more about how you lead, and I just love how successful you've been. You gave so much within this 20, 25 minutes or so for leaders, especially in my realm, to pick up on. So keep doing what you're doing and just continue success for you, man.
I appreciate it. I really do. And anybody out there that's thinking about starting the journey, I think, preparing battle should give you at least a foundation to give you some confidence on which direction to head in. And if you're looking for it, you can get it now for pre-sale for $1. So I would just get the ebook copy for $1. It's not a huge investment right now.
There you go. Excellent, folks. You heard that. Some folks were listening in the car probably pulled right over. When you said that. That's awesome. Chad, thank you again, and hope to connect with you again. We'll talk more about LeBron James.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, folks. This has been Kenny and Chad. This has been the Leading from the Middle podcast. We'll talk to you soon.